Hello, I'm Ciarán Lynch and welcome to OviCast, the Teagasc Sheep podcast. Each episode will bring us insights, advice and technical updates for the sheep industry. In this week's episode, we're joined by sheep specialist Damian Costello to discuss why farmers should consider raddling rams this breeding season. Damian discussed the two types of raddle used, either in the form of paste or ram harnesses, and offers tips on the use and ways to leave it easier to catch rams to check on these. Damian explains which order different raddle colours should be used, and we discuss how to make use of changing that raddle colour to better predict lambing date and plan feeding programs in late pregnancy. We discuss how raddling can be used to monitor ram fertility and the level of repeats, and finally Damian offers some practical tips to safeguard against use of infertile rams in flocks. We start off, however, with Damian highlighting the benefits of raddling rams.
It's very important to carefully observe rams during the mating season, Ciarán, and it's very it's essential, I suppose, really to raddle the rams and keep an eye how mating is proceeding.
What benefit is raddling really? What information are we gaining?
Sure, it's very important, Ciarán, from the point of view of how mating is proceeding, the number of ewes that are being mated every day. If the rams are working, it will give you an idea of lambing spread when it comes to lambing time.
I suppose, Damian, in terms of monitoring them, we've discussed for many years the use of raddle. I suppose what information, or how is that of benefit to farmers?
There's loads of benefits to raddling here, and first and foremost, I suppose, to check that there aren't any issues with fertility of rams. We talk about strategic use of colours, starting off with lighter colours and changing at least every 14 days, changing to a darker colour that can be overmarked. So again, after 14 to 17 days in the first cycle, if you're seeing a lot of repeats at that stage, it may be an indicator that there is a problem with the ram in terms of fertility. But the good thing about it, I suppose, is at least at that stage there's still time to do something about it. It's much better than finding a lot of empty ewes at scanning time.
And look, I suppose, I know this one takes it a few months down the track, but we often mention even there with lambing spread, it gives you an idea for feeding groups and otherwise of when to start supplementation.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of flocks that pay particular attention to the raddling, and they will change I was saying maybe to change at least every 14 days, but lots of people will change every 7 to 10 days, and particularly in the earlier part of the mating season. And this is a huge benefit when it comes to nutrition, feeding the ewes pre-lambing, because it's a very accurate predictor of the expected lambing date if it's done correctly. So you can group up ewes not just by litter size, but you can also group them up by lambing date, and this allows for much more accurate concentrate feeding in the run up to lambing. So there's potential, I suppose, to save on concentrates, and possibly more importantly, you're not overfeeding ewes, or you're not feeding them for too long of a period, which in itself will enable you to have lambs at the optimum birth weight, and reducing the incidence of oversized lambs and the associated lambing difficulty that comes with that.
Look, it does require effort to do, and we'll go through some of the aspects of it now. Like, broadly speaking, Damian, there's two options for raddle, and you might take us through each of those.
Yeah, I suppose the old tried and trusted method, I suppose, is where people will mix raddle powder with oil or that, and they make that into a paste. And again, this is applied to the just above the brisket of the ram, the wool there, and it's important that that's really worked in well into the wool. So I mean, again, as I mentioned earlier on, you're probably starting with a lighter color. It's particularly important then that you keep an eye on that, and you keep it topped up, probably every few days. And this is especially important in the first few weeks of mating, when rams are particularly busy. So that would be the first one. People often ask, I suppose, how often do we need to top this up? And, it varies with, the weather conditions and the amount of ewes that the ram is mating. But if you observe a ewe being mated, and just check to see that when that colour is starting to fade and starting to get light, it's time to reapply raddle to that ram. So I suppose the other option then, Ciarán, is that there's custom-made harnesses that people will put on the ram at mating, and there's a colour crayon that can be attached to a crayon block. And again, this is replaced every time you're changing colours and that kind of thing. The important thing with the harness, I suppose, is to keep checking it, that it stays in place, because it will tend to stretch a little bit, and it would also bed into the wool of the ram a bit. So it needs to be checked and adjusted as necessary, because the last thing you want is to have it slipping back on the ram and potentially impeding him from mating ewes.
Oh, certainly it can cause maybe injuries in a brisket too if it's not placed properly.
Correct, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Look, just in terms of topping up that raddle or changing Damian, as I said at the beginning, look, there's a bit of effort has to go into it. Any tips on the best practice for doing that?
Yeah, sure. I suppose I've seen examples where people maybe have a small pen or a few lambing hurdles or something like that in the corner of the field, where they potentially maybe feed the ram a little bit of concentrate or something during. But it's important probably that this is done every day, because if you only feed the ram the day you're going topping up the raddle or checking the harness, he'll pretty soon cop on to that. Look, it's no harm. I know we often speak about having minimum disturbance to the flock during the mating season, but lots of people will walk them into the yard, catch the rams, apply the raddle or adjust the harness or change the raddle crayon on the harness. So no big issue with that from once it's done with due care. And again, a lot of people will take the opportunity if they have them in the yard to foot bath the flock at that stage as well, just to ensure that the feet are kept right during this important time as well. But again, any of these things are, from once they're done with due care and not unduly exciting the sheep, I suppose, there's no big issue with them.
And look, I suppose that's the key thing, Damian, is they're familiar with going in and out through a handling yard. It shouldn't be pose a massive issue.
Exactly, yeah.
Look, you mentioned there the change in colours. You might just take us through again what the recommended order that is.
Yeah, again, as I suppose we'd be talking about something like starting with a yellow. And the important thing here, Ciarán, is that that if they're overmarked, that you will be able to see so you start with the lighter colours, maybe the likes of yellow. A lot of people will follow that with orange. Green will tend to go over either of those two colours, and you're moving on then to the darker colours of red, blue and black. But again, depending on how often you change the colour, you probably have lots of them there, but starting with the lighter ones so that they can be overmarked. And
look, I suppose the key thing you have to throw out is the first 2 weeks really is going to be the intensive time for topping up. So as activity hopefully drops off and not many repeats, your applications, especially towards the tail end, are going to be definitely less frequent.
Less frequent, but I suppose at the same time, no less important. It is important to carry the test through to the end of the mating season, and again, a lot of people at that stage will be, and it's probably sensible. For once the first 2 or 3 weeks are done, that people will group up into bigger groups, and you can do that, because as the rams are not as busy as you say, Ciarán, at that stage.
Probably like one of the, I suppose, Damian, we started there, like one of the key things raddling will do is identify repeats after the first cycle. But as you alluded to there, that idea of mobbing them up after that first cycle into bigger groups or taking rams round is probably one of the simplest practical solutions to guard against infertility.
It is, and there are lots of farms that practice, we'll say, the single sire mating. We'll say, in other words, one ram per group, but it is prudent, really. to move these, to move these between groups during the mating season as well, so that if there is any issue with an individual ram, that you're guarding against that. So, maybe every 2 weeks, maybe to rotate the rams between the groups where this is possible, where this is practical. It's worth doing. The other side of it, people, particularly in bigger flocks, where they will let a group of rams to each group. What we advise there, I suppose, is to have at least 3 rams per group. A lot of people use 2 rams quite successfully, but the issue there, or the danger there, is the effect of the blocker ram, where one individual ram, I suppose, uses all his energy, maybe trying to stop his comrade from mating ewes, and this effect is much less where you have three rams per group. So if you're group mating, probably 3 rams at least is better.
It reduces that chance of that infertile one.
Yeah.
Damian, always good having you on. Thanks very much for that. It's certainly something to pay attention to at the moment.
No problem, Ciarán. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to finish things up there. Again, it's one of the management tasks that really needs to be considered at the moment. That by the time and effort invested now will pay dividends, particularly during late pregnancy, and also immediately to monitor levels of fertility in your flock and give a better idea how busy the lambing period is going to be. That's it for me for this episode. Again, for any updates from Sheep Programme, keep an eye on our Twitter page at Teagasc Sheep. I'm Ciarán Lynch. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and listen in to any of our episodes.